you and I were kind of in the same thing with Trump, which was that I was thoroughly enjoying seeing the elite and the media and all of these bullshit artists and these talking heads that just talk and don't have anything really to say.
Get paid a huge amount.
Yeah, they all get paid a ton of money, of course, far more than we're making on YouTube, I assure you. But all of the power, all of the money, all of this stuff, they lost. And the night of the election, I was on with Andrew Clavin. I'm not sure if you know him, but I
do know him. Yeah, he's a really funny guy.
Great guy. He's a great guy. Yeah, and he's a hardcore conservative. I just had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, but he said something that I thought was just spectacular that night. He said, look, all of the elites, all the power, all the money, all the media, everybody wanted Hillary to win. Trump won. And what that shows you is that the power of the people in this country is still so powerful that it's the most important thing that we have, that everyone worldwide, pretty much in every country in the world, would be jealous of what we have. And here it is, we have it. So my question for you really is that you saw this coming too, and I saw you were getting a lot of shit. People were saying, see, you're supporting Trump.
I didn't think it was going to happen. Like with Brexit, I thought it would be close. I thought it'd be the narrowest of narrow margins, you know. And I thought that it would be a good sort of smack to the face and give them a wake up call and say, okay, right, we've got to start thinking about changing. But I mean, this is actually better because now they've lost, so now they have no choice but to have some sort of introspection. But sorry, what was I interrupted you.
Well, no, I'll go from there. Do you think they're having introspection? Because I don't sense it. There were a couple days where I thought maybe they were going to, and I saw a piece in the New York Times saying the liberals have to rethink themselves, and something in New York Magazine. So a couple of the elites said, yeah, we have to think about it. But on the ground, and in terms of the usual cast of characters that are leading this thing, I don't see any introspection. I see doubling down on racism and bigotry. I see doubling down on silencing people and screaming over everybody. Are you seeing it? Maybe you're seeing it and I'm not.
Oh, it is everywhere. It absolutely is everywhere. And the more sort of radical leftist, I don't want to call them journalists. I'm just going to call them bloggers. And I'm going to call them bloggers because most of their journalism comes from Twitter. I'm so tired of Donald Trump's Twitter account being news. Don't you get off your fat asses anymore and actually go and investigate? Oh, but it's a lot easier to just get your phone. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, way easier. Sorry, I just got sidetracked. What was the question again?
No, well, they don't even give you a chance. They don't even give you a chance to be outraged anymore because they're sitting there monitoring his Twitter feed so that they can get outraged and tell you that you're outraged.
Yeah, but no, you're right. There has been an awful lot of doubling down. When Bernie Sanders came out against identity politics, that was an important thing. And I think that a lot of Bernie supporters didn't know how to take that. And that, I think, spun... was it The Atlantic and the New York Times that wrote pieces that criticized identity politics, saying we're going to have to move beyond this?
I think they both have, and New York Magazine and a couple other. Yeah.
Yeah, they've identified the problem, but you're right, the backlash is terrible. I mean, I've seen... And again, these are mainstream media articles in, like, you know, The Guardian, The Independent, places like this, where they are just ridiculing the concept, saying that this is like the eternal howl of the white man or something like this. And it's just like, you're fucking idiots. You don't even understand. You know, it's the fact that you constantly play this game of divide and conquer. And it's just, you've lost, you know, you've conquered a tiny, irrelevant area of the internet, and people aren't paying attention to it. If you look at the numbers across the board, they're just sliding down. Everyone's getting sick of their crap. And yet, you know, our numbers just keep going up, and they won't listen. They just won't listen.
So that's a perfect segue for what I think the meat of what we can talk about here is, in case we haven't got to the meat yet, which is that we're online media people. You know, I don't really consider myself a journalist in that I'm not out in the field doing journalism. I talk to people, I interview people, I share my thoughts on things, whatever you want to call that, that's fine. But I think one of the things that really the narrative that really got constructed over the course of this election is that we know that mainstream media has been crumbling forever. They're purging their numbers. Nobody trusts them anymore. They've all gone partisan, blah, blah, blah. And the online people that have been doing this for a few years, our numbers are all going up. People are paying attention to us more. They trust us more, all that stuff. And I think it got to perfect parity. And now we're starting to win. And I'm curious, do you think that they are going to come down on us? And this can also sort of segue into some of this YouTube censorship stuff and what's going on Twitter and the rest of it. I mean, they have a lot of money and a lot of power still. And, you know, we're on a webcam in Google Hangout at the moment. So where do you think that all falls out?
Oh God, who knows? I think they will do. I mean, we are when you attack a man's livelihood and the source of his income, then he's going to do everything he can to protect that. And not, you know, when I say a man, anyone, they will do everything.
No, you only meant men. I know what you meant.
Yeah,
you meant white, heterosexual, cisgendered men. That's what
not
you
even
meant.
black men, not Asian men, just the white men. No. So yeah, they will do everything in their power, but thankfully their power is actually quite limited. They don't have control over YouTube, for example. I mean, like if I do a video and use a few clips from, say, The Guardian, or I actually did that one regarding Trevor Noah with Viacom. I got a copyright strike on it immediately. Mm-hmm. And I won it within a day or two. YouTube came down on my side saying, no, this is fair use and he can do this, and bully for you Viacom. So, you know, it's YouTube, it's under pressure from the sort of activists, but it's not as bad as people think. It's just, it could be as bad as people think. And I'm not saying that it won't become bad in the future. It might, but at the moment, it's not that bad. It's just that there are kind of storm clouds on the horizon. But I don't think I don't think it's the mainstream media that really have the power to do this anymore. It was honestly, I think I think when like historians look back at this, they'll look back and it'll be it was the New York Times who issued the apology that they had become cheerleaders and not journalists, and they were rededicating themselves to honest reporting by doing so, implicitly saying that everything they'd done before was dishonest. And it's just like, I mean, I appreciate the sentiment, but you understand how awful it seems that you have to do that, you know? And I guess its power had gone to their head or something, or, you know, ideological conformity had gone to their head. I don't know.
But it's kind of a beautiful thing. Don't you think it's a beautiful thing, sort of watching it crumble, and also that all of these people, it's like they have all the cable news people and all of the big media companies, but they have all this money, all these resources, and it's like people don't care anymore. You had your chance and you screwed up, you know, and by no means am I saying that I'm perfect or that you're perfect. And by the way, the whole idea of online media, it raises a whole other set of problems because anyone can do this. So the bar of entry is so low. So how do you figure out who you trust? Because I'm really struggling with that. And people ask me that all the time. And it's like, even when I'm reading articles, I'm like, man, I got to read 5 articles about the same thing just to piece them together to figure out what might actually have happened.
That's actually what I do. To its credit, the one thing that the mainstream media is actually good at is reporting facts if they want to.
That's a backhanded compliment if I ever heard one.
Isn't it just? Because the greatest crime of the mainstream media is lies by omission. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows if you go to The Guardian, you're going to get half the story. If you go to the Daily Mail or whatever, right-wing Fox News, you're going to get half the story. To get a more comprehensive view, you actually do have to, like you say, read 5 articles from different sources to make sure that, you know, and you will find there is specific, not necessarily, I don't know, I don't want to call them open lies, because I don't even know if these people know that they're doing what they're doing, because I think a lot of these people are so partisan by this point that they don't really understand what they're doing is dishonest. I think they just think that, well, you know, I mean, like the number of times I hear something go, well, that's right wing, or they'll say, or they're just doing it for money. It's like, okay, they aren't refutations, they're delegitimizing tactics. You know, if you can tell me how it's wrong, then I'm all ears. But if you're just going to go, well, I don't like it because of the source, then you've not disproven anything, and I'm going to treat it as valid until you can. You know, especially if I can't find anything, obviously. So yeah, it's tough, and it's going to get more difficult, especially as oh my god, the fake news thing really drives me crazy. The irony is quite delicious, I have to say, and the problem is they have a point. There is a lot going around on the internet that is just flat out nonsense, and it gets, you know, often millions of views, and people share it, people think it's true, and it's one of those things where you've just got to be discerning. You just have to understand the landscape and what is likely to happen from the context of what has already previously happened and who is reporting what to you. Most people aren't that informed. Most people just don't have the time to be that informed. I mean, they've got jobs, they've got families, they've got lives to get on with. They expect to read a newspaper, and even if they don't say, look, we're gonna, we're going to give, you know, equal time to, you know, like the alt-right as we do to the SJWs, you would at least expect some sort of distance from one's own biases and emotions when they're writing the piece. But unfortunately, that's just something they don't do. And so you have to go out of your way. And it's rare. I tell you, my favorite articles are the ones that are actually written from an objective standpoint, where, and at the end, I don't even mind if they say, well, yeah, and we think that this, or I think this, or whatever, but just give me the facts without trying to put a spin on it, for the love of God.
Well, it's just incredible to me that the bullshit news that we've all been calling out is now calling everything else fake news. And when I say that, I fully acknowledge that your point stands, which is that there's a lot of nonsense out there and fakery. But just to show you how there is something going on here that's kind of bigger than us. Like, doesn't it seem pretty obvious to you that there was somehow, I don't know who it was from, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I would always say extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, as Carl Sagan said. But
sorry, Pizzagate fans.
Yeah.
Sorry, well, the Pizzagate thing, people keep asking me why I don't talk about it. It's like, because there's no evidence. You know, everything you're seeing is conjecture. And don't get me wrong, I would never let Joe Biden near any of my children. You know,
there are some of those videos with Biden and the kids are really gross.
It's disgusting, isn't it? I mean, just what does he think he's doing? But anyway, sorry, carry on.
Well, but your point on Pizzagate actually stands, because I feel the same way. A lot of people keep tweeting it at me saying, why aren't you talking about this? And it's like, I can't even garner the slightest bit of what's really happening here. So I'll wait. And if something is proven, then of course I'll talk about it. But my point was that this meme of fake news now, that all the mainstream media is saying that everything is fake, shows me that somehow there's some coordination somewhere. I don't know what that means exactly. I'm not saying it's a bunch of guys at a table, but there's got to be something.
I don't think it is. That's actually the most worrying part, right? Is I think that it's actually so in Gamergate, when Gamergate was happening, what we saw from the media was something that they called a cascade effect. I think it's a good term because I think it makes a lot of sense. So basically, a thought leader in their community, someone who, you know, everyone else tends to follow, would put out an article, and then, I mean, you know, a lot of their columns now are like 5 paragraphs long. So it'd take half an hour to knock this up that basically says the same thing, and then you slap it up on your own website, and then everyone's, oh God, that's a good point. Right, and then it just propagates. It doesn't need to have any kind of organization, because they're all basically taking cues from one another and going, right, okay, oh, yep. Okay, we're all in the same team, great. Because that is how they operate. I mean, we saw like with Ezra Klein's journo list, they do operate as a faction. You know, these outlets are meant to be in competition with each other, and yet they're conspiring together. And they actually do it like with malicious intent as well. So it's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, I mean, and this isn't just like nonsense. We can name the people on the list. We have it all. You know, it was all leaked, and the same with the emails from Hillary Clinton. You know, these things they do actually happen. And I tell you what, I've got some advice for conspiracy theorists, because I love a good conspiracy. I love conspiracies. But you if you can't name the they, you can't report it as fact. You don't know it's true. If you can't name them by name, it's nonsense. And so that's the important thing. So like John Podesta, Tony Podesta, you know, Biden, or whatever, if there's any hard evidence connecting them, then yeah, that's something. But to say like, you know, the New World Order wants to poison the fish and turn the frogs gay or something, that's nonsense. You know, they who, you know, it's too broad, it's too nonsense. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, I like sort of the direction there, because you're basically saying that it's the group think that's doing it. It's not a group of thinkers doing it. Yeah. It's not a group of thinkers, but it's actually group think. They all taking these cues from each other and going with this stuff. So look, we're starting to win, which I think is nice. But this now will bring us back to where we started, and it combines both of these things. The fight that you and I are trying to do here, and really save the left if it can be saved. Do you think that we really can win? Because I'll go depressing for just a second, and then I'll let you answer. Is that my fear at this point is this thing has gotten so out of control, and now because of Trump, because of what they view him to be, whether he is or not, but he's such a good bad guy for them, that there's almost nothing that we can say within the rational part of their brain that's going to work. So for example, if I say to them, well, you know what, you guys were really against money in politics. Hillary had all the money, Trump won, so that's good. Trump isn't a Christian conservative. Everyone knows he doesn't care about gay marriage and weed and abortion. He doesn't.
He is, you know, like the Republicans. That one of the things they hammer about is he's not a real conservative. It's like, yes, I know. Everyone knows he's Donald Trump. He's not really, you know. I don't think Donald Trump cares about a lot of the things that both sides care about. I really think he doesn't care at all.
So what do you think about the idea that, so I've been pushing this idea, or at least talking about this idea, that I think as a populist, of course there's danger with the populist. Hitler was a populist, so of course there's danger. Sure. But that with someone like him, he's not an ideologue in that he's not Mike Pence, who's, you know, would take his Christian conservative views to govern with. That we might, as a population, we might be able to push him to do some good stuff if we can kind of agree on what good stuff is, because he wants to be liked. You think that's a fair point? I made exactly this point when I did an interview for a channel called None of the Above, and I made that exact point. Is that Donald Trump? He is even if it's because he's a narcissist. I mean, he wants to hear you saying Trump, Trump, Trump. So just tell him what you want. You know, make it obvious to him. You know, mass tweet at him. He obviously pays attention to what goes on Twitter. So if he gets 10,000 tweets in an hour of people going, you know, don't sign the TPP or whatever the issue is, and he's already killed that, hasn't he? He's already killed the TPP. He's already saved a bunch of jobs. Everyone's complaining about him like anything, but he's actually got quite a lot done before he's even assumed the office. So he might not be that bad. He might just have been, I don't know, playing the crowd or something. But with regards to the left, though, the social justice warriors themselves, the ideologue activists who are doing this because they think it makes them good people, will never change their mind. We will never change their mind. They're totally indoctrinated into this ideology, and they won't change, and they don't want to. This is why the whole worldview is basically unfalsifiable. Because if you say, right, okay, well, I have a suggestion, they'll say yes, but you're a white man. You would say that, and that just diffuses everything you can ever say. It's like, okay, well, I guess it is coming from a white man, you know, and if that is enough to delegitimize me, then I mean, we literally have nothing to say to each other. And thankfully, that's a very unpopular position with, well, both any race, really, any gender. Most people aren't on board with this. So this is why they lost. But when it comes to reforming the left, we have to make these people understand that they are the fundamentalist Christians. They are the flat earthers of the left. These people have lost. They have lost badly. They held the reins of power for about 8 years under Barack Obama. And look how it's ended. You've got Brexit, you've got Trump, Le Pen's coming up. Italy just lost their bloody referendum. I haven't even looked into yet, but Merkel just banned the burqa today. I mean, yeah, Merkel's arguing for banning the burqa. So look, whatever you think about your own ideology, it's a practical failure. It hasn't worked. It's turned people against you, and now you are the most hated people in society. You know, people hate you more than they hate the fundamentalist Christians, and they used to hate the fundamentalist Christians. And so you, in the marketplace of ideas, your ideas were deemed wanting, and they have failed. So if they ever come to you and say, well, this isn't right, I don't care what you say, you're wrong to argue that position. We know that position has been discredited. It's absolutely nonsense. So what needs to happen is a root and branch ideological reform on the left, where people have to get back to the fundamental principles and why that they're on the left. What is it they think they're advocating for? Because, I mean, like, I saw this the other day. 25% of homeless people are women in the papers. Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that, like, hardly any of them are women? But no, that was the problem. Okay, right. What do we need to do? We need to solve the homeless women problem. Okay. So 75% of the homeless are okay. That's an acceptable number. It's just the 25. This is the problem with identity politics. There is no benefits to being a man when you're homeless. You know, very, very marginal benefit, if anything. And being homeless is a much heavier burden for, you know, anyone to bear. So the fact that they're women, it doesn't matter. The fact that they're homeless is the problem. So we need to basically transition from identity politics to issue politics. So what's the problem, right? Homelessness, right? Does it matter who's homeless? No, it doesn't. It matters that anyone's homeless. So what do we need to do, right? We need to get whatever shelters, get housing programs, get them off the streets, get them in some sort of rehabilitation schemes, get them to become productive members of society again, which I'm sure they want as well. You know, I'm sure they would. I speak to homeless people sometimes because
I never give to charity. I don't trust any of these big charities, but I do give change to homeless people when I pass them in the streets. Because I always look at that guy and think, if that were me, my God, I would just love it if someone gave me a bit of change. And what I really hate the sort of nefarious sort of myth of, oh, they just spend it on drugs. Okay, the dude's homeless. If I had some drugs, I'd give them to him myself. You know, this dude lives on the street and begs for food, and you're worried about like, oh, he might spend it on drugs. Fuck, I don't care. You know. And so I like to see where the money's going. I like to know that someone who actually needs it is getting it. I would never ever recommend giving money to like the Clinton Foundation.
Well, by the way, the Clinton Foundation, last I saw, I think about a week ago, their donations were down something around 40%, which just proves what the point was the whole time. If they were doing such great work and all of their people, all of their donors were doing it just because it was so great, well, then of course you'd keep giving the donations. But it wasn't about that. It was about access. And now that she will have less influence, you will get less access. It's like all of the stuff just kind of crumbled at once. But I like what you're saying. I like what you're saying about the issues idea. And that's how we can win, because we can't win on breaking the people that this is the danger of calling everyone a racist. It's so hard to break out of that if you accuse someone of being the scum of the earth for years.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, I mean, a lot of people aren't going to want to listen to like the SJW types who spout this constantly anyway. And I mean, if you can go to any online newspaper and look at the comments on these SJW articles, people are just angry. People are pushing back. They have been for a while, and they should have seen it coming. They should have seen the popular discontent. And I hate this kind of collective guilt, individual responsibility dichotomy they want to perform. They go, well, you know, we just because we said this, it doesn't mean that, you know, it's like, no, you're all saying this. You're all doing. You have to understand that the public, if you want to talk in groups and generalizations, then the public is seeing this wall of hate coming from the left-wing media. And the left-wing media is populist, it's arrogant, it's everywhere. And for some reason, people keep giving it credence, especially with their op-eds. I just can't understand why anyone reads them, but for some reason they do. So yeah, basically these people, they have to be, I mean, literally everyone, when they talk to them, they have to go, no, you lost, you're wrong. You know, and they'll be like, yeah, but I've got all these fancy justifications. Well, it doesn't matter. Even if I don't know how they're wrong, well, you failed. I mean, you can't appeal to voters with it. Therefore, you can never win the power back. Therefore, you can never get any of these things done. Therefore, you've lost. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter what you're saying. Even if what you're saying was brilliant, and it's not, it's retarded. But even if what you were saying is brilliant, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't work. It's like communism. It's just not going to work. It's a great philosophy, but it's never going to work for human beings. And so this is the same thing. It's just not possible. So I want them to understand they have to change. And if they're not prepared to change, then they can't be part of the conversation. I'm sorry to say it, but these people are a drag. They hold the left. I mean, they are the reason the left has lost. So yeah, we definitely need to transition from identity politics to issue politics. And we need to understand why we care about these things. Why go back to the root principles of liberalism, what it was designed for, and why. And the five sort of principles that are the pillars of Western civilization were there for a reason. You know, people look up to those things for a reason. I mean, and I don't want to sound like a Western chauvinist, but I am. There isn't a better system. And if you can show me,
it's pretty good, the West.
Exactly. This is the thing, right? No, if Donald Trump wins, I'm going to move to Canada. No, move to Mexico. You know, shut up and move to Mexico. Oh, you don't want to? Why is that? You know, don't even move to Saudi Arabia. Don't move to Canada. That's full of white people. You don't want to go there.
By the way, Lena Dunham did not move, for the record.
No, of course they didn't. None of them did. They're full of shit. I can't understand why anyone listens to celebrities on anything. I mean, in ancient Rome, actors and musicians were considered lower, about the same social level as prostitutes, for what they could add to society. And so I think we maybe should go back to that kind of mindset again. When George Clooney says, oh, we need to take loads of refugees, we just go, okay, George, how many are you taking? You know, that's very noble of you. Mm-hmm. But these people, obviously, they don't live anywhere near any of the things that are going on. They don't care. They're not interested. They just want to virtue signal and feel good about themselves. And I'm sick of it. And I'm sure a lot of other people are sick of it. And yeah, suck it. I don't care.
I was on a I was on a radio show, a progressive radio show, maybe 8 months or so ago, and the guy was being incredibly hostile to me, even though it was an old friend of mine, actually. He was being really hostile to me, and I was not being hostile. And we started talking about immigration, and I said, look, I don't know what our vetting is. It's impossible to know what's going on. It's clear. Look what's happening at the borders in Europe. Like, we have to figure out what's going on here. And he kept trying to imply that I was somehow being bigoted or racist or something like that. And then I said to him, I was like, if you're so for immigration, you make a lot more money than me. I know roughly how much you make, and you work at a big media company. Why don't you, maybe take in a couple immigrants, take a couple migrants into your house? And then suddenly he freaked out. Well, that's not really how it works. And it's like, no, if you show these people that this is not just theory, you can't just have your shit in theory. You have to have it in practice too. They crumble pretty quick. Absolutely.
They're never, I mean, one of the reasons that the people in the EU are getting to the point where they understand is the way the votes and the polls have been going recently. But an EU official's daughter was murdered by a migrant the other day, and it's just okay. Well, now you know how everyone else is feeling. I'll find a map and I'll send it to you after this. Where it's basically on Google a live map of just all of the crimes that have been done by migrants in Germany, and it's the whole country, and it's thick with just you got the thing in Germany, it's just constant just dots everywhere, and it's just like, my God. I mean, the German figures were leaked from the German police in 2016. Was it 2016? 2015, I think it was actually. 400,000 crimes were committed by these migrants. And most of them were petty crimes. Like thefts and muggings and stuff like that. So it's not like life-ending, but there are still thousands of people who have been raped, who have been murdered, and it's just like you didn't vet these people at all. You don't know who they are. You don't know why they've come. And I've had people from Syria commenting on my videos, going, "I know people have gone. They've just gone for the money. They've just gone because they know that the Germans will put them in a refugee camp and give them money each month, and then as soon as they stop giving money, they leave." I mean, like, when the Danish government said that they weren't going to give benefits to migrants, suddenly 4,000 of them left. Oh, really? Okay, well, there we go. It's not that there was a war, it's that you thought you were going to get some free money. And the thing is, it drives me crazy, the whole sort of, I mean, what did you think was going to happen? You say, oh, yeah, you can all come. We've got migrant. I mean, obviously that's going to incentivize people who aren't actually there for the real reason. It's obviously going to do that. And then I've heard like plans of, what we're going to do is we're going to pay them to go home. It's like, no, that's retarded. We know that doesn't work because of the Vikings. That's exactly what the French and English kings did. And what happened? Oh, more Vikings came because they went back with a big ton of treasure and gone, yeah, this just gave it to us. Right. It just incentivizes people to come. Unfortunately, you're going to have to do effectively what Eastern Europe is doing. Just say no. The answer is no. Go away. Go to China. Ask them. Go to Iran. Ask them. Oh, they're going to say no as well. Well, there we go. It's. I don't want to sound heartless, but there are so many problems that have come along with this, and it's been nobody apart from the political elite have had any input in any of this. They haven't cared. Merkel has been under such pressure not to do this, and yet she did it anyway, almost like an article of faith. When you see her talking about it, she would be talking about it almost as if this was some kind of religious duty that she was doing. And it's like, okay, that's dangerous, Right,
and she did her religious duty, and what happened? 1.5 million people came in. The system is under strain. The crime that you just mentioned, and then as of the time that we're taping this today, she's proposing this burqa ban. So it's like, this is a lot of road to hell, man. Road to hell.
Yeah, I really trust you to get that sorted, Merkel. Yeah. I trust that you're going to be the one to do all this. Yeah, forgive me if I'm cynical here. But it's not that. I mean, ultimately, this migrant crisis might be the result of, might end up with the EU breaking up, which in my opinion is a good thing. But I mean, surely they're not all looking at that going, oh, that's a great thing themselves. They must be furious. But getting back to the reform of the left. So I really think this is the most important thing for left-leaning people to talk about. It's to understand how social justice works, why it thinks what it thinks, and then to identify the people who are pushing it and tell them they have to change or they have to leave, because they do. They absolutely do. There just cannot be any room for this kind of bigotry, and that's what it is. To say, well, it's because you're white, that is a generalization based on race. That is the thing you complain about when it happens to black people. I don't care what your systems of oppression say. On an individual level, that's an unacceptable thing to do, even if you think it's justified. And they do. And that's why, like your friend, like you're saying, he was being really hostile to you when you were being polite. There's no excuse for that. But they think they're acting in service of a greater good. And that's one of the things that I think there are so many just like elementary concepts that these people have forgotten. I mean, the greater good or the common good. Well, the common good is for everyone. The greater good is for a certain section of people. And almost, I mean, I can't think of an ideology in the 20th century that didn't butcher people, that didn't also have a greater good in mind when they were butchering people. And then Fidel Castro dies, and you see Trudeau like, oh, my hero. Dude, he had firing squads, just execution squads. This guy was a monster. I can't believe it, you know?
Yeah, everything's kind of backwards. You know, it all sort of leads me to, I think, where we should probably end this for today, although next time we're going to get you in the States finally. We're going to do this live.
I certainly will.
But that for people with flexible minds, because I think that's the through line here, is that as a classical liberal, as what a liberal is supposed to be, I think we have flexible minds. I'm pretty sure that there's no information, if I could prove to you was true, that you might not like it at first, you might try to argue against it, but if I consistently prove something to be true, that you would eventually come around. And that's what a flexible mind is all about, not being beholden to an ideology, but being
rational.
But being rational, being beholden to the truth. And we seem to live in a time that everyone's using this phrase post-truth now, where everyone just kind of makes up their own truth. But we live in a time where it's like the loudest people are screaming and the loudest people are getting the most retweets and the most views and all the clickbait and all of that stuff. Where it's for people like us, and I think for the people that are watching this right now, that like the stuff that we're doing and we're putting out there, it makes our job a little harder, because having a flexible mind also means, I think, I want to live a pretty decent life too. I want to not devote every bit of energy that I have to fighting with people and all that stuff, and not becoming a demagogue that I would hate at the same time. And so basically, I just view this as our job is a little harder, because being rational in an irrational world is a little harder.
I think that our job is made more difficult than everyone else's job by the fact that we don't have an identity. That's the problem. And I mean, like, but you've been arguing against identity politics the whole time. I know I have. I know, and I don't. I'm not suggesting that identity is a panacea for anything, but the alt-right became a really powerful force. But if you look at it, the alt-right's tiny. The alt-right's really small. I mean, they're like the biggest alt-right bloggers have got like 30, 40,000 subscribers. You know, that's a tiny movement. And yet they were just dedicated and noisy online. They caused a lot of trouble. And suddenly Hillary Clinton is legitimizing them in a speech. It's like, oh my God, that's shit posting has gone from the internet to Hillary Clinton's mouth, where she's denouncing a cartoon frog.
She's literally reading Milo's Breitbart articles. And by the way, Milo isn't even considered alt-right enough for the true alt-right people.
He's a gay Jew, of course he's not part of the alt-right. He just likes them because they're fun. Yeah. You know, you got to hand it to them. The memes are funny, you know.
Well, that's the irony. Everything has been flipped on its head right now. There's such self-righteous drivel coming out of the left right now that nothing's funny. The Daily Show is not funny.
Oh,
the what's her name that has that TBS show? I keep watching these commercials. It's like, it's not funny. You're all lecturers, and actually, the stuff that is funny, I don't like the swastika. I don't like Nazis. But the stuff that's coming out of the right is actually the subversive stuff now. Comedy is supposed to be subversive. It's supposed to be against the power. And the left is just sucking up to the machine.
Absolutely. The left have been pontificating for years. It's exactly what you're saying. You know, the Daily Show and was it Samantha Bee?
That's the one I was thinking of. I mean, it's appallingly horrible.
It's just not funny. You're not funny at all. So stop, please, guys. You know. But yeah, but that's the thing. They've got a narrative they want to project, and they can't mock their own narrative. You know, and they're the ones trying to set like a normative. No, this is how it should be. And it's like, well, no, it shouldn't. It's nonsense. And these guys are just mocking you relentlessly. I mean, with the thing with the facts, I totally agree. There should be no facts that are forbidden, and that's again. I mean, that is probably one of the key crutches of the left. For example, like there is no denying that black people on average have a lower distribution of IQ than some other races like white people and Asians, right? There's no doubting that. But what drives me, I mean, that's scientific fact, but what drives me crazy about the alt-right is when they go, right, so now we can do something. So no, we can't. No, we can't. We don't penalize people for having a low IQ at all. And you're not trying to do anything about the white people with low IQ. So that just means you're targeting black people because they're black. You don't care about the IQ at all. That's just a convenient foil. We're not going to do anything to any of these people based on their IQ. We don't do that. We're not going to start now. Stop asking. It's not going to happen. You know, this is some ridiculous, it's like SJW saying, right, okay, we'll have everyone at the same level at some point. No, that's not going to happen either. You both got this utopian, ridiculous idea. But what's worse is it's going to necessitate totalitarianism. To make sure everyone marches in lockstep with what you want done, you're going to have to become totalitarians. And I'm really comfortable with a free, open, and liberal society. So the answer is no to both of them. You know, they can both go hang as far as I'm concerned. But the left just needs to learn how to be funny again, frankly. Yeah. But maybe it can do that now that it's kind of lost all the power and failed completely. But
I mean, that could be the saving grace, that suddenly they're going to have to fight the power again. And maybe that will actually lead liberalism to go back to its liberal roots. Listen, Carl, I could do easily another hour with you, but I got to run. We got a ton to do to get this thing in order for next week. But it was a pleasure talking to you as always. And, you know, look, some of these ideas are getting out there. That's the beautiful thing. And we just got to keep pressing. And yeah, our job may be harder, but if not us, you know, who else is going to do it?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? But okay, so I'll leave you with the last thing is that the people who are sort of rational liberals, they need an identity. They need some sort of, like the alt-right has, like intersectional social justice advocates have. You know, you need some kind of unifying identity, and it's not for yourselves that you need this. It's for other people that you need this. It's so the media can say, oh well, like, you know, these like new liberals are doing something. You know, or you know, the alt-right are attacking the new liberals or something like this. Is to get a sort of political map in people's minds and stake out your place in that map, and so people can recognize you as a force that needs to be dealt with. Because I mean, between us, we're coming on 1 million subscribers, and yet I don't feel like we're getting anything done. And I think it's because people don't have a mental map of us. They don't really know where to place us. They're just seeing individuals with large audiences and thinking, well, it's just one guy. You know, okay, he's got a big reach, but you know, I'll just ignore him, I'll block him or something, and then he's gone. But if we can find a label that we're all generally happy to use, that we can push and like you coordinate on hashtags and things like that, then we could actually start seeing us breaking into the mainstream, just like the alt-right. That's exactly how the alt-right did it. That's exactly, honestly, it's probably how feminists did it, to be honest. I should go and check the history of them, but it's having a name. And one thing, sorry, a very quick last thing. Everyone always gets hung up on the idea of community and the sort of purity of the community. Drop it. Just drop it. Just drop. I mean, communities are just something people do. That's a group of people hanging out together is a community. It's no big deal to call something a community. And okay, well, I'm happy to not have collective blame, as long as we don't need collective guilt and responsibility. So that's fine. If someone in the community is bad, then we'll say, okay, that person was a problem. We're sorry. You know, we've disavowed him. Don't worry about it. We're all, you know, it's not a big deal. People act like you're signing up to an organization, you're getting a card, and you know, now you've got a whole list of rules to follow. No, it's just do what the alt-right did, do what the feminists did, do what every social movement's doing online. Find an identity and push it, and so you can we can all at least agree on like 4 or 5 basic principles, like, you know, secularism, skepticism, individual rights, freedom of expression, and democracy, or, you know, something like that. These sort of 5 points. Who's in disagreement with that? You know, there are going to be millions of people, and this is what drives me crazy. Because if we had some kind of identity, we could probably activate millions of people. If we could just get on TV and be like, no, this is what we are, this is what we stand for, because you failed and you're horrible. So, you know, this is what we want. I think we would get a huge flood of people coming to us, because I think most people are on our side.
Well, you know what? I started this by saying that I don't know that we can win, but I think you just did a beautiful 2-minute job of what our work should be for 2017. So I'm gonna keep working.
Oh, that's all I do.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, I mean, this is it. This is it. And I know that people hear you. They hear me. They hear this other gang of amorphous people that are coming together. And I think that the the next wave of this is in our favor, and we're going to keep pushing. So we'll do it again soon, man.